Well, it's first day of June 2021, and summer's here. It's beautiful. Some of you who have been following the postings that I've been putting up and have know the greenhouse, and I'm getting all sorts of individual questions about it. So it was suggested that I do a little short video about making the greenhouse. So let's take a quick tour, and then I'll show you how I put it together. To start off with, let's take a quick look around. Most of the plants have now gone into the garden, so there's not that much in it. I've been storing the bicycles and so forth in there. Put in two doors. This one here is only accessible from the inside. It's an old door that a neighbor gave us. Windows are all purchased from people who were trying to get rid of their old windows. These two windows here, I made 20, 25 years ago for my sister's house, and when she moved, I got them back. So here's our door. Here's somebody wandering around, checking things out. Yes, stopping by the rain barrel there, which is working very well. But of course, door has to have a lock. So there we go, into the greenhouse. So let's take a look at how this was all put together, starting with the plans.
Yeah, though I didn't specialize in woodworking or electrical at high school, I did take a fair bit of it. And I'd say probably the most that I learned was through watching my dad and working just on my own. So what I did is visualized what I wanted the greenhouse to look like, consulted with Yvonne about that, and then got about making the plans. And also, it's handy being a teacher that I was in the woodworking class for one of the semesters this year, and was able to ask the teacher any questions that I had on specific things. Now, the price of wood over the past year has just gone nuts. That says 10.15 there. Well, it actually is up to 17 now. So I went into my nearby Home Depot and checked out doors, checked out roofing, the clear plastic roofing that I was going to be using, and then came back home and started the work. This is the space we set aside. It had been an area that we'd planted in with a raised bed last year, but it didn't do all that well. So Morrissey told me, how about we put the greenhouse right here? So that's what we did. Started with a foundation, sunk it in, gravel bed below it, and started building. Now the brick path there, you see, Avon put that in last year, and it's quite handy inside the greenhouse. Now here's Morrissey testing out some of the wood. Started with the lower walls, and following the plans, made them the whole way around to support. This is the section below the windows. That way I could measure each window so that it was exactly the same height. Then started on the upper section once each of the four corners was set up. Now these windows, some of them came from recyclers, some of them came from people selling things, and some of them, those two little ones at the end, were actually in our basement when we moved in here. So as it slowly went up, I had a lot of neighbors peering in to see what I was doing, because the sound of power tools definitely catches attention. You can see from the background here, this was in late spring, because the bushes and trees had not yet started to turn green. And there, now the door is on, and we could secure it a little better. And then the framing for the two stained glass windows went in. And there's the one right there. As I said, these were ones I made about 25 years ago. So then came the wraparound, which also was in the house when we moved in. Quite handy. Now the second window was a bit too large, so what I had to do was break it down and reassemble it slightly smaller. And of course the door has to be green because it is a green house. And there's the roof. We've got the roof on now. and the plants had already started coming in. We went out several successive Saturdays to pick up some plants at the local greenhouses. And the roof started going in just as the rain came, which was very handy. And there's Morrissey complaining. He did not want to be in there. There we go. And the plants were starting to sprout. It was really nice to see. This rain barrel here that's on the corner, that was picked up a couple of years ago, so it came in handy. And there's a view from above, looking down at the completed project. Now, siding was the question that I had. What type of siding did I want to use? And I stumbled across this used cedar siding at a reclamation place. And I think it looks really nice, combined with the doors and the green below, and the way that the whole building comes together. And that's pretty well what it looks like now. All ready to go for the season. And also put some ventilation in the top. Now here we have the various things coming up there. The parsnips, they hadn't started sprouting at that point, and the corn, when it first came up, it's getting quite big now. And the strawberries, you'll see them a little bit later. They're much bigger now and actually producing. So there we go. And the last thing, I put some solar lights in there at night, mostly for security reasons.
Going up the yard from the greenhouse, you can see how the peas are doing really nicely. We've had quite a few good rainstorms lately. They'll be producing shortly. We've got some squashes here and some tomato plants, which already have little tiny tomatoes on them. Yeah. And to make the garden feel a little bit bigger, we put a path along the back of it. And you walk along the path here, listen to the birds, and put a bench at the end here to sit down and rest after doing some gardening. And from here, what can you see? Rest of the yard. Let's take a look at some of these raised beds. Before we take the path down to the raised gardens, I'm just going to stop by here and take a look at this tree here. Last year it didn't do anything, but this year we have peaches. Lots and lots and lots of peaches. It's going to be nice once they're fresh and ready to eat. All right, let's look at the raised gardens. We have here corn and onions. There's the corn, and there are the onions. And we have some leeks and some more purple onions. And then go over to the next raised bed. We have peppers, sweet and hot. And we have some squashes. And in the final raised bed, we have the runner beans, one of Yvonne's favorites. And they're already climbing quite high. And if it's like last year, they'll be ready in maybe beginning of July. The thing that has flourished the most with all this rain has been the potatoes. I don't know what we are going to do with all these potatoes. There are quite a few of them. And the final thing, my personal favorite, rhubarb. Not as much as I'd like, but hey, can't complain. Busy with all this rain has been the rock garden and the flower bed. You can see all the roses, and we even have some yellow lilies growing in there. We cut it back quite substantially this year, and it's flourishing. And out front of the house, we initially weren't sure what we were going to do with this area. But climbing vines and this wisteria we got from a neighbor are taking over. So I don't think we're going to have much of a problem. A bit of an update. The parsnips I mentioned earlier are now sprouting and will be ready to put into the final raised bed. And meanwhile, over here we have strawberries. Lots and lots of strawberries coming up. I've already had some and they are very nice. So Morrissey says, thank you for watching and welcome to my garden, which he thinks it is his garden. Okay, say bye, Morrissey. And the cat slowly walked away.